There's a dark side to safety management that I don't think enough people are talking about. And it has two sides that impact our work. It's starting to come out of the dark because more and more people are bringing it up to me. And what I'm talking about is mental health. So today, let's unpack some of the concerns, and I will share my thoughts and my experiences. Let's get to it. Hey there, safety friends. Welcome to the Safety Geek podcast. I'm your host, Bryce Sargent, CSP and 27-year safety professional. After spending years training safety leaders across the globe for a large organization and creating safety programs from the ground up over and over again, I'm now sharing my processes and strategies with you. At the Safety Geek, you will learn how to manage an effective safety program that increases your management support and employee engagement, all the while helping you elevate your position and move up in your career. If you're ready to step into the role of a safety influencer, you're in the right place, my friend. Let's get to it. Hello, my safety friend. For those of you that are listening that celebrate it, happy Thanksgiving. I know that this episode is coming out right around that time, and I hope that you have an enjoyable kickoff to your holiday season. I know that this year I am so thankful. I am thankful for my health. As you guys know, it's been a really tough year for me. I am thankful for my family. Even though we had a loss in the family this year, the rest of my family is just amazing. And that I get to wake up every single day and help people improve their leadership and safety management skills. I absolutely love what I get to do, and I am so thankful that I have been able to build the Safety Geek and work with just amazing safety leaders out there. But today, I want to talk about something that has been brought up to me several times over this past year, and that is mental health in safety management. And there are many different aspects of this that I want to bring to your attention, because even as people have brought this up to me, every time it's a different issue that they're concerned about. So I want to just kind of break it down into what you should be thinking about as a safety professional. Now, I have to put a little disclaimer here. I am not a mental health professional. I am nowhere near the expert to talk about this. I do have my degree in psychology, but it is just a bachelor's degree. I never went on for my master's to become a psychologist. I will just be sharing my thoughts, but if you have any questions, it is really something that you should bring to a licensed professional to talk about. Okay, there's my disclaimer. I have some experience with it on all aspects, but I am not a professional. All right, so the aspects of mental health that I want to talk about are, one, the mental health of our employees and mental health claims that our employees may make, like workers' comp claims. I also want to touch on psychological safety. And then I want to really talk about the mental health of safety professionals and the exposure to trauma that we have. All right, so let's get started with our employees. Now, the thing about employees is that you never really understand what stressors your employees are going through. You could sometimes understand what they may be within the work context, but you don't know what's going on at home. You don't know about any death or divorce or loss. You don't know about any genetic disposition towards mental illness they may have. You don't know of anything that they may even have been diagnosed with. So your organization should have resources available to support your employees. And this is usually an HR job, but you should know what is available to help your employees. Whether that is something that is part of the health insurance package, whether it is something separate. I have seen employers actually have employee assistance programs. I've seen employers offer subscriptions to like therapy apps like BetterHelp or whatnot. So you need to know what resources are available. And if there are zero resources available, then you need to know what resources are available in your community to assist employees should they have them. Because these issues are going to come up, right? And the reason why this is important for you is that when people are going through mental health stressors, it's going to impact their work, right? So let's say that somebody had a death in the family and they're going through like bereavement. Generally, workplaces give people a few days off, right? You had a death in your family, we'll give you 2 or 3 days off, paid leave to go handle that. And then they come back to work full time. Just because they're back from bereavement or, the funeral's over or whatever it is, does not mean that they are in the right mindset to be doing safety sensitive work. You need to have a process to where you are watching out for these employees because they may need extra observations. They might need their job changed for a temporary period of time. You might need to give them light duty in order to help them. This is one way that an organization can show that they're supporting their employees. Now, I had an experience one time where I was called into one of our locations. I was working as a regional at the time, so I was not the safety professional on site. So I was called into one of our worst locations, and that was my job at the time. I was actually training safety managers for the organization, running a VPP support group for our exceptional locations. And then I was also the person that was brought in for our worst locations. So if I came on site, you were either one of our best locations or one of our worst locations. That was the position that I was generally in. And this location, we were doing an overall audit. And when we looked at their driver records, we identified a handful of drivers that were showing some issues. But one driver in particular, you could see that he had been an exceptional driver. He'd worked there for years, was an exceptional driver. But several months prior to our audit, he started getting all of these dings on our camera system. So we had a camera system that recorded distracted driving and defensive driving, anything going on with the driving thing. And if it was outside parameters, it would give it a ding where they needed extra coaching. And he just started out of nowhere getting a lot of these, not maintaining his lane, driving too closely. It was just a bunch of things. And immediately somebody may look at this data and say, this is a bad driver. We looked at it as like, what changed? So we brought the driver in and we said, look, this is the data that we're seeing and this is the trend that we're seeing. And he assumed he was getting written up. He assumed that he came in to basically get in trouble for all of his bad dings lately. But we took the approach of like, we want to know what's going on. We looked at this and said, something changed and we don't understand what. And we're here to help you. And as part of that conversation, it was discovered that his wife had left him and that he was now a single dad with 2 young kids that were in daycare. And he was trying to juggle getting them to daycare, coming into work, their childcare and everything, plus working a lot of hours. Our drivers worked the 70 hours in 8 days. And he did not have a support system. So we were like, this makes sense. He was more tired. He was stressed out and he was overwhelmed. right? There's a lot of life changes. So we put him in touch with some community programs that could help with childcare. We put a call out to employees, that anybody that wants to help. And we put him in touch with our employee assistance program so he can get some mental health therapy as well. And we slowed down his schedule until he got it under control. So the benefit of this was that we were showing care and support for the employee, and we weren't losing a good employee. Like, we could have fired him over this. But instead, we showed care and support, and over a couple of months, he ended up getting everything under control and being able to work his full duty again. So there is a very fine line that you have to walk when you're doing things like this between the company's needs and the workers' needs. You want to be able to show compassion, but you want to also be able to set clear expectations because the work still needs to go on. It will help you for a little bit. We're here to support you. But if I have to reduce you to light duty or I have to reduce your hours, you're not going to get the same pay for that. Or it might, if it goes on for too long, we might have to discontinue that and hire somebody who can do the job full time. So there's a fine line. So I'm not saying that you always side with the employee and go out of your way for every single employee. You look at it as a case-by-case basis. But this is why you need to make sure you know what resources are available so that you can come up with a plan that assists the employee, shows compassion, but then also helps you meet the expectations of the company. Because honestly, a couple months of lower production is what a new employee would give you anyway. So I'd rather keep the current employee as opposed to hiring a new employee. I'm still going to go through the couple of months of low production. But generally, if it is not an ongoing issue, people can get it straightened out before that. And it's important that you document everything. You document it so that way, should something happen where you do have to terminate the employee or they try to say that you discriminated in any way, you've got all the documentation of every conversation and every action that was taken. That's just to protect everybody involved. And my key on these issues, whether it's bereavement or things going on in people's lives, when you look at the situation that these employees may be in, don't expect them to act like you would act if you were in that situation, because everybody's different. You may look at it like, well, I'd get over the death of an aunt or uncle within 3 days, but it took this employee 6 months or a year to get over it, right? Like, you can't expect them to have the same response as you. But you do have to walk that fine line. You can't just be like, this can't go on for months on end. So now, another issue with employees is young people and the current mental health crisis that is going on with our younger people. And you can't deny that it is happening. The National Institute of Mental Health says that 1 out of 5 people live with mental illness. And that includes many different conditions and many degrees of severity. And there's lots of contributors to that. There's social media, there's parenting styles, the pandemic added to some of it, there's culture, there's societal demands, there's economic demands. All of those things add to it. So we could talk for hours about what's causing it, but it's just a fact of life that this is what we as employers and as leaders in companies need to deal with, is that there are more people right now in society suffering from mental illness. And quite honestly, in my direct family, I have 2 people. I have my sister who was born with brain damage and my daughter who has suffered from anxiety and depression since she was pretty much a toddler. And to the point that she has physical symptoms too. Like, she passes out on a regular basis due to it. And she's been doing that since she was about 3 or 4 years old. and now she is 21. So it's been a long road. But this is just something that we as leaders just need to prepare for. And what is interesting is that workers aren't required to tell you. Like if they're on medications or if they have special needs, you can ask them. Like there's that form, right? That in employment that people ask, are you going to need special accommodations? But a lot of times they're not going to be honest because of the fear that you will discriminate against them. And they are not required to tell you what medications you're on. Like I'll tell you right now, my daughter is on a lot of medications. And when she goes to work somewhere, luckily she works in an office setting, but if she was in a safety sensitive position, she's not required to tell them that. So you have to think about that as a safety manager, that you could have people coming onto your property that are on medications that make them unsafe. So an interesting little fun story is that I had a forklift operator. So he's a heavy equipment operator. And he got pulled for a random drug screen. And you know how random drug screens go, right? Like you send them for the drug screen and you generally get the result back the next day. If you don't, it's because the doctor needs to talk to that employee about something before they release the drug screen. So in this case, that's what happened. And the doctor in this case actually broke their confidentiality and called me and said, look, I can't tell you what this person is taking, but I can tell you that I would not feel comfortable with them driving a piece of heavy equipment. And I was like, interesting. So from that, we started doing fit for duty exams because people can't tell us what they're taking. But when you send them for a fitness for duty exam, they do have to tell the doctor any medications that they're taking. And then the doctor can compare it to the job description, talk to their other physicians, and then make a determination whether or not they are physically able to safely perform that job. And the doctor saying yes to that puts them under some liability. So in our case, when we sent this person to their fitness for duty exam, and that's exactly what happened. Our doctor talked to their doctor, and it was determined that he had been on this medication for so long at this high dose that he was functional, and both doctors determined he could do the job. So it protected us in case he ever got into an accident and injured somebody else. We took every precaution and were told by the medical professionals that he could do the job. So it's something that I honestly think anybody who has workers in safety sensitive positions, that they should have them going for fitness for duty exams just to make sure that they're physically fit to do the job safely, especially if you have specialty equipment. So this one place I worked, we actually required them to climb a 12-foot ladder and stand on a platform. And a lot of people think they can do it, not just safely, but like that they mentally can do it. So we actually constructed that ladder at our occupational health, and they put everybody up the ladder and made sure that they were safe going up the ladder. And some people failed. They were too scared of heights to do it, right? So the other thing that you can do to protect yourself with this is that make sure that your supervisors are made aware of the signs of mental health conditions like panic attacks, anxiety attacks, signs of depression, all those things. So that way HR can step in and we can offer assistance. And you want to make sure that you are doing what they need to be successful. So I've worked with several different people with mental illness, and everybody needs different things. Like, for example, my sister, she is functional. She holds down a job. She has her own house. She manages everything, right? But she doesn't take change well, and she doesn't take multiple tasks well. So if I am to change something, I need to give her warning about it. That warning only needs to be a couple of minutes for her to prepare. Or if I'm asking her to do something, I have to give her one task at a time. That is what she needs to be successful. My daughter, on the other hand, is high functioning with a very, very high IQ. And if you start explaining things too in depth to her, it causes her to panic. She's more like, just tell me what you want me to do and I'll do it. So this is where your supervisors need to adjust their communications to make sure they're giving the employees what they need to be successful. And for you, that might be adjusting your training or adjusting your communication style. Like you might have employees that just need bite-sized pieces of information, and then you have other employees that need more in-depth, right? So you do a combination of both to make sure that they're getting the information they need in the manner that they need it to make sure that they're successful. Because that's the goal. You can't just say, well, I'm not going to hire this person because they have mental illness issues, because likely the next applicant will too. So you're better off learning to deal with it successfully than you are trying to avoid it. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is mental health claims, because stressors from work can actually be considered a mental health workers' comp claim. Now, this is not allowed in every single state, but there are several states within the U.S., and I'm not sure what it is in other countries, that you can claim stress from work caused you anxiety or depression and that you needed therapy, and that is to be covered by workers' comp. So you can use this fact to encourage your company to develop the programs and resources so that way you can address these issues when they come up. But keep that in mind, that if someone tries to claim depression or anxiety as a workers' comp, it's possible. It is definitely possible. I was a regional and I had several claims come through. The ones that I know for sure are California and New Jersey, but I would definitely check every single state. All right, so the next one is psychological safety. So don't confuse psychological safety with mental health. This is totally different. And I think there is some misunderstanding about psychological safety. It comes from the work of Carl Rogers back in the 1950s. And the reason why it is such a buzzword right now is because it was popularized by Amy Edmondson. She actually did several Harvard Business Review articles, but she did one that really skyrocketed and went viral. And then she wrote the book, The Fearless Organization, in 2018. So that's where it became popularized in modern times. Psychological safety is about creating an environment where people feel comfortable to speak up. And speaking up about anything, including safety issues. And this is so popularized right now that in Australia, it is now a requirement to have psychological safety programs. So I could see this spreading throughout the globe, that more and more people would require it. Now, in the context of the company, this is not just a safety issue. It's a business culture issue. And it should never be put on safety's shoulders just because the word safety is in the name. And that is one of the issues that I personally have with it, is that because it's called psychological safety, they just think it's a safety issue. And that's not true. It is a business culture issue. Now, in the regards of safety, this is something we've been doing for a very long time. This is your see something, say something programs, or giving your employees stop work authority. And this is something you should always have in place. This does fall under psychological safety, but these two parts of it do fall under safety management. So make sure that you always have a see something, say something program and stop work authority. And to make those even stronger, when somebody uses these systems, you do not ask them why, right? Like, why did you do this instead of doing this? Instead, you respect and you Hey there, quick break in this episode, but it's worth it, I promise. If you ever wish you had ready-to-go safety templates, checklists, spreadsheets, and tools so that you're not stuck creating everything from scratch, I got you covered, my safety friend. When you sign up for my all access resources, you get instant access to my private resource vault. Plus, you'll get my safety leadership newsletter, where a few times a week, I will send you an email packed with quick, actionable tips that you can use today. These are the same resources and strategies that I have used to build world-class safety programs, and now they're yours for free. So grab them up today. Go to thesafetygeek.com/resources to get your all access pass. Alrighty, let's get back to the episode. Where were we? I guess put them up on a pedestal for actually using it. Make them feel good about using the stop work authority. Like, hey, thank you so much for pointing that out. I mean, you want to know why they stopped work. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that in most organizations, whenever you have a see something, say something or a stop work authority, the person that used that program then gets investigated as to what their problem was. And then it makes them feel like they're being blamed for doing something wrong when they're not. So be careful how that's done. When you're first rolling it out, I would just make sure you're praising all of the people that are using it. If people don't use it, then you need to point out like, hey, this is a time where you should have used it, and maybe berate them for not using it. And that will make your program stronger. Now, the last area of mental health I wanted to talk about was the mental health of safety professionals. And honestly, this is the dark side that nobody talks about, even me, because I don't want to discourage people from entering our field. But as safety professionals, we are exposed to a lot more traumatic events than a normal human being. In some cases, more than anybody should be, right? We see more about it. We read more about it. And then we handle accidents and incidents that could be traumatic. Just having that exposure actually affects your personal mental health. And unfortunately, as you move up in your career, this exposure increases. Because as your organization gets bigger and there are more employees, there is the greater likelihood of traumatic events happening. As you add in more locations, that adds in the more possibility of more incidents. And when you are higher up, where you're running an entire organization with tens of thousands of employees and lots of safety-sensitive positions, you're exposed to even more. So other professions actually have resources available to them that are required by law, like first responders, the medical profession, even 911 operators. It is required by law to have mental health services provided to them. So remember when we talked about workers' comp claims, it's only a couple of states where you can do that. But in almost every state and every area, for these first responders, they have to have access to mental health because they are exposed to traumatic events at a much higher degree than anybody. But there are other people in the chain of that accident or incident that are also exposed that don't have these same protections. So think about tow truck drivers. They have to clean up the mess afterwards. Or claims managers. Talked to a claims manager once that went through a lot of traumatic events, and their claims, they've got like 200 claims that they're managing at any time, and they see all the images, they see all the videos, they talk to the claimants and everything they're going through. It's traumatic. And then there's us, right? And no mental health is required. And if you are living in a state that doesn't allow workers' comp for this, it's pretty much up to you. So a couple of years ago, I took a job as an analyst for transportation safety for a global organization. And my job was to analyze all of the accidents and incidents that came up on their camera system. So they had a camera that recorded everything, and I just had to make sure that the supervisors at the location had the data and they were supposed to be coaching the people on it and all of that. But any accidents, I actually had to watch the accident, gather the data from the video, and put it into a database so that way we could track and trend it and find areas to focus on. Just everything that I do, right? Like, we want to gather data and track and trend it and figure out what our problem areas are. In my first 6 months of doing this, I saw more dead bodies than any person who is not a first responder should see. And it wasn't that this was a bad company. They did have a bad accident rate, but it wasn't just our people causing the accidents. I would get calls from the police departments and highway patrol. Like, your driver was driving at this time. Go back in your camera and find where the car in front of them hit the pedestrian. And I would say the one accident that broke it for me was, I never watched the video because I refused, was knowing that one of our drivers ran over a child. And it was not our driver's fault. The child ran into the road. He couldn't stop in time and ran over a child. And I was like, I'm done. I can't do this anymore. And at the time, I actually had a lot of friends in therapy. And one of them recommended, they're like, things have changed since you started this job. There were so many things going on in my life at the time. Like, I couldn't even drive on the highway anymore. And they're like, I'm pretty sure you have PTSD. So I ended up having to actually go through therapy for PTSD. And that sounded very funny to me because it's not like I was ever at war, but it was just being exposed to that many traumatic events. We're talking multiple a week. And doing that over a period of a year, it was life-changing for me. And it is taking me several years to get back to where I can actually drive on the roadways again. So maybe more than you wanted to hear there, but that is like the dark side. And as you move up in your career, these are things I want you to be aware of. So how can you deal with this? And how have I dealt with this? So I think that it is always a good idea to work with a therapist. BetterHelp is excellent way of getting therapy. Use any employer assistant programs that are offered by your company, or check into your insurance and see what they cover. The problem is, and I have discovered this over years because I needed to get therapy for my daughter, and there was a period where I needed it for my son as well. Therapy is really, really hard to get covered by health insurance. Not because the health insurance denies it, but because the therapists get paid so little by the health insurance companies that they don't want to accept it. So I've actually never been able to find a therapist in my town that would take my Blue Cross and Blue Shield, believe it or not. I've always had to pay for therapy out of pocket because they just don't get paid enough. Even on BetterHelp, they don't get paid enough. So with my daughter's therapist, we actually found them on BetterHelp, and then we moved off of BetterHelp, and they kept us at the same pricing because it was more than what BetterHelp was paying them, because that way BetterHelp wasn't taking the cut. But be prepared that you're going to have to pay for this out of pocket, but it is well worth it, because when you have somebody that you can talk to about keeping yourself functioning well, even if it's just once every couple weeks or even once a month, having them on standby is extremely helpful. And then once you are well functioning, you can also talk to them about goals in the future and other things happening that could help move you forward. Sometimes coaches are better at moving you forward, where therapists are more like just making sure that you're functioning as a human being. But a lot of therapists are trained in both. So keep that in mind. So just think about that when we talk about mental health for safety professionals, is that you do want to be prepared that as you move up in your career, the exposure does increase. And I was okay with it for a while. Like, when I was a regional, I was able to compartmentalize it. I did deal with fatalities and severe injuries. But, when you're in just one location, that might happen once every 2 or 3 years. When you're a regional, it might happen 3 or 4 times a year. I think my problem was when I was this analyst. So you're this low-level analyst basically looking at every single accident. Nobody else in the company was doing that, but that was my job. And it just had a huge effect on me. And then sometimes if you do have to deal with a fatality, it could have an effect on you. And don't be embarrassed about it. Just own it and get better from it. Use the resources you have and get help and move on from it. Because quite honestly, it's the not dealing with it and not getting help that makes it persist. So it's much better if you just take the steps to protect yourself and to take care of yourself. And don't worry about how it looks. And maybe one day they will change the laws to where more than just first responders have to have access to medical health services. Alrighty, my safety friend. That was a deep, deep topic. That's what I have for you this week. I hope that this puts a lot of this into perspective and gives you some ideas on how you can support your employees moving forward. And that's all I got for you. I will chat with you next week. Have a safe day. Bye for now.
Hey, if you're just getting started in safety, or you've been at this for a while and are hitting a roadblock, then I want to invite you to check out Safety Management Academy. This is my in-depth online course that not only teaches you the processes and strategies of an effective safety management program, but how to entwine management support and employee participation throughout your processes. Are you ready to finally understand exactly what you should be doing and ditch that safety police hat forever? Then you have got to join me and your fellow safety scholars over at Safety Management Academy. Just go to thesafetygeek.com/SMA to learn more and to get started. That's thesafetygeek.com/SMA. And I will see you in our next students only live session. Bye for now.